In this video, we'll review 4 principles for improving your visual design. Robin Williams coined the 4 principles: contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity, aka CRAP, in the book The Non-Designer's Design Book, which provide guidelines on ways to make visuals more effective. The goal of this video is to get you thinking about how you might use their principles when designing visuals to communicate your research. So, why is design important? Take a minute to think about a time when you saw a poster or a presentation and it was difficult to focus or understand what the key point was of that visual. Maybe it was too busy with too many items squeezed onto the space. Maybe the font was too small or a type that was difficult to read. Or maybe the graphics don't match the text and you have to spend too much time trying to figure out the relationship between them. These are all reasons why it's important to think about how you design your research visuals. Good design can enhance clarity and understanding of your key points. Good design will direct your audience's attention where you want it to go, and good design will build your credibility as a professional. Lastly, it reduces cognitive load by allowing your audience to focus on what's important. It supports the cognitive load theory, which states that people can only process a limited amount of information at once. People have limited working memory, so designing visuals that minimize extraneous information like unnecessary or distracting graphics, dense text, or complex layouts will help your audience devote their attention to the information that matters most. Let's talk about the first principle of contrast. Williams states that for contrast to be effective, it must be strong. She encourages designers to not be a wimp when it comes to including contrast in your design. So what does contrast look like? You might use large type with contrasting small type. You might use a couple of different fonts. Taekyom Lee, associate professor at Indiana University Bloomington, suggests using no more than 2 fonts in your design and to pick fonts that resonates with the content. You might contrast thin lines with thick lines, cool colors with warm colors, smooth textures with rough textures, horizontal elements with vertical elements, or small graphics with large graphics. Overall, use contrast to help create interest while aiding in the logical flow of information. On this slide, we see 2 example newsletters. By briefly looking at the 2, which one would you be more likely to pick up and read? Why? It's most likely the newsletter on the right. Notice the differences between the 2 related to contrast. The title and subheadings are stronger and bolder, and the dark band behind the title helps the title stand out and be bolder. You'll notice that in the first example, the title is all in caps. By changing it to caps and lowercase letters, there was more room to make the font bolder, so these are things that you might have to play around with a bit as you design. The second principle is that of repetition. Repetition can be thought of as consistency. It's a conscious effort to unify all parts of your design. You've likely noticed from the few slides we've gone through that I've incorporated some repetition into this presentation. What elements of repetition have you noticed? What does that repetition do for your ability to comprehend and focus on the key points of this video? Likely, you don't have to strain as much to figure out what to focus on because our brains like the consistency as it reduces the cognitive load of having to figure out what's going on. In the first example with the business card, the change is subtle, but by adding in the repetition and contrast of the bold font in the phone number, you'll find that your eyes bounce back and forth between the name of the business and the phone number versus just being done with card after the unbolded number. In the second example, you'll see a few arrows pointing at parts of the design that would then be replicated in subsequent pages. A line with a thicker middle line across the top, a thin line at the bottom, a bold page number in the lower left-hand corner, and bolded subheadings. Even things like the bold band across the top of the picture and the arrow with a description in italics should be repeated throughout. Let's move on and talk about alignment. According to Williams, nothing should be placed on a page arbitrarily. Every item should have a visual connection with something else on the page. What does this mean? Should you not include a little picture of your adorable cat just because? Probably not. Alignment refers to how you arrange the content on your visual. Is your text flush, left, right, or center? Are you keeping it consistent on your page? Where on the page are your graphics placed? Do you have everything center aligned like a beginner? You'll want to look for common boundaries that connect items. This means that even when you have items separated on a page, our eyes are searching for a common alignment. This is what helps create cohesion in your design. Let's look at some examples on the next slide. Looking at the top business card, what do you notice about the alignment of each item? Of the 4 items in each corner, are they aligned? No. If you're like me, this causes me some internal conflict. However, in the card below that, how does that feel when you look at it? Does the alignment and placement of items make more sense to you? Is it easier to read? And with the examples on the right, what about the alignment in the top example? There's text that is left aligned, text that is center aligned, and the graphics don't seem to be placed in any specific way. They appear to have been thrown on the page. However, with the bottom example, all the text is left aligned, and the graphics align in one way or another. The top and bottom of the top 2 are aligned, and the bottom one aligns on the left-hand side. Is this example more appealing and easier to read? These are examples of ways that alignment can create unity and organization with your visuals. The last principle we'll look at is proximity. Proximity also refers to where items are placed on a design, but more specifically suggests that related items should be grouped together. Williams says that when pieces of a design are scattered all over, the page appears unorganized, but that you should group related items together as physical closeness implies a relationship. You might be thinking, but what if I group related things together and then I have all this white space? Embrace the white space. You don't need to fill every inch of your visual. Other things to think about with proximity is that you might need to tweak size, weight, or placement of text or graphics as you move to group them, and a change in spatial location can indicate to your audience that something is different about that one item. Let's look at the First Friday Club example on the left. What is the important information in that first example? It's difficult to tell, isn't it? How does the center-aligned text feel? It feels and looks a bit amateur, doesn't it? However, the modified version on the right helps our eyes and brains understand that there are 3 different readings. The repetition of how things are formatted and bolded helps us easily find the information we need. There's contrast in size of font and color. The left alignment eases anxiety and makes it less chaotic, and the proximity of the relevant information helps with organization and comprehension. Same with the example on the right, the Understander document. Notice how the subheadings in purple were moved closer to the relevant text. Then the spatial difference between the phone number and email at the bottom, not aligned with the rest, draws your attention to that important information. These examples here exemplify how effective your design and visuals can be when you incorporate all 4 of the CRAP principles. Thank you for listening. I hope that after this video, you start to think about and incorporate these 4 principles in your visual design to help make your posters and presentations more impactful and easily accessible to your audience. If you want to read more from this book, you can find it online through the CSU library.